Now, in this episode of Stuff I Like to Do, what I'm going to get into is some of the footwork stuff I do. I'm not going to get too much into detail of the other exercises I do because you can find that stuff in our programs. But one of the things I do on my own, and that is I like to have some improvisation whenever I'm practicing footwork or whatever the case may be. So as you can see, I got my little X's on the ground, and I actually don't really use these when I'm doing my stepping. I'm just putting this out so people can kind of get a feel for the kind of stepping I do. And you could do something like this too, where you just take some painter's tape and you put a bunch of X's on the ground. Notice also that the X's are not exactly aligned. And that's done on purpose because I want to have the freedom when I'm stepping to be able to position myself wherever I feel I need to be and not trying to get too patterned in my movement, if that makes sense. So what I do is I start off with one of my X's and I'm just going to take a step. And then I just start stepping on the X's. And what I'm trying to do is step as little as I need to the best of my ability, whereas I'm always on balance wherever I step. So if I'm going to step on a kind of an angle, I want to be able to land where I can pick the other foot up easily as I land, where I'm completely rooted over that leg, but I have 100% control over my body, because as I'm stepping, I want to be able to do things like kick or whatever the case may be, or not get double weighted, as they say in Tai Chi, and be able to change direction. The other thing I like to do is, as I'm stepping, you probably notice I got some X's in between X's, and what I'm doing is as I'm stepping, I'll even take a short baby step here, and then pick the foot up, and then step again. Kind of like, almost like hopscotch, but a little more masculine. But the idea behind it is getting the footwork down and practicing just kind of being able to pick your feet up and be as creative as possible when you're stepping. The big thing is when you're doing this, you want to start off slow, take your time, because what you want to concentrate on is feeling yourself rooted over each one of the X's as best as possible. Then you start adding speed to it, where you're stepping and you're kind of learning how to control the overcommitment, but also training yourself to be able to step and decelerate and change direction as quickly as possible. When you're practicing this, as I always tell people, also have fun with it. Don't get crazy, and be creative with your feet, whatever you want to do, because the idea is you're just trying to control the ability for you to be able to position yourself in the fight where you're not crossing your legs or doing some crazy, weird thing with your feet, but also being able to control your body as much as possible. The other thing I like to do whenever I'm doing this kind of stuff is also using weighted objects in my hands. It just to not only give my brain something else to do, but also get into the habit of learning how to move and coordinate both my hands and my feet. So what I'm doing here, I'm just tossing the ball back and forth, transitioning. Sometimes I step around the ball, sometimes I just go back and forth, where I notice I'm shifting my body and then I'm catching the ball. And I like to do stuff like this because it also helps me practice manipulating space between myself and another person. And also, it's just a lot of fun, doing this kind of stuff, moving around, getting a feel for it, getting the footwork down to where as you're stepping, you're also controlling your body. I recommend using a lightweight. This is like 4 pounds. You don't have to use a lot of weight, and you're going to find that as you're doing this, it can be a little difficult at first because you're trying to coordinate movement, stepping, and also catching the ball. I recommend using one of these balls that are filled with sand, so if you drop it, it doesn't end up like damaging your floor or something like that. But it's just something you can practice as well. You can even do it when you're working out on a heavy bag or whatever the case may be, and just have fun with it.